Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 3, Episode 9.
Welcome back, friends, for our first ever episode featuring a duo. Brother and sister teaming up to bring you the most beautiful R&B Eau Claire has ever heard. Welcome the group Naalia. Hey.
Hi.
So first off, can you guys just introduce yourselves?
Yes, well, I'm Naalia. My real name is Aliana, but it's what's it called? An anagram of my name. So, yeah.
And I'm my brother Sergio. I've been doing all the production and instrumentals, and we co-write, and it's been really nice.
Wonderful. So after this episode, people are going to be asking everything about you, and they're going to want to follow everything that you do. So how can people follow you best or get in contact with you if they want a feature, or if they want to do a little concert, or if they want to buy some merch, like any of that stuff?
We're kind of everywhere except Twitter. That's like the one thing we're
really
not.
bad at
Yeah, for some reason we can't figure out Twitter. But
Me too. So Instagram's my main one, which you can follow the shop at Passion Board Shop, or the podcast is at passion_pod, which a lot of people know in this town. What is your handle?
our Instagram is at Naalia EC, and Naalia is Naalia, and then EC. And our Facebook is just Naalia. Yeah.
Just, you can go. I think it's just facebook.com.
Yeah.
Takes you to our page.
And we use those both pretty equally, I would say. You can contact us the best that way.
And our email is naaliaofficial@gmail.com. So you can shoot us an email if you want to hit us up, or just say hello.
Wonderful. So it's mainly you two that do everything, right? I mean, you guys have performed with other people, but is it just mainly you that create the music, and who in general plays what kind of role within Naalia?
Yeah, we do I guess I would do more of the melody creating part of it, and Serge and I both write the lyrics. And we start out with what would you say, a simple beat or...
Yeah. Sometimes it'll start off as just her in the studio with me, and we just start making an instrumental, or I'll already have a beat. But usually we don't go in with a preconceived idea. We just kind of build it as we go, and as we're feeling it. So it all kind of feels very natural in the end of it.
Sure. And then when you perform, Aliana, you clearly do the vocals, right? But you don't play any instruments during the shows, right? So who plays all the actual music outside of the vocals?
Yeah, so in our band we've got Kyle Piper. He's our bass player. He did all the bass in our EP. As well, we have Stash. He is our drummer. He's also in Elfessa, Them Cooley Boys, Raptor Octavius, just all around amazing drummer. Also recently we've added Emily Watkins, and she, not only being one of my friends, but also an amazing guitarist, and she does some stuff with Uncommon Denominator or the Chippewa Valley Jazz Orchestra. She's just really awesome. And I do keys, and you sing.
Yeah. For the instrumentals, I think for the most part we come up with something simple, and then we have our bandmates listen to it, and they put their own little flair on it, and it all kind of comes together that way.
Yeah, we try to keep it pretty collaborative, as well as being inclusive.
So you guys started pretty recently, right? And you've obviously accomplished a whole bunch within Eau Claire since then. But when exactly did you guys start this whole project, and kind of what was the motivation? Who came up with some of the ideas with it?
Well, we started last year in March, was it? Serge got the opportunity to be a part of Sprinter Studios at Ivy, and what really kicked us off was the invitation to record for the NPR Tiny Desk contest. And we had 2 weeks to prepare, so we had to pump out some songs, and yeah, it just got the ball rolling, I'd say.
Yeah, I would look that up on YouTube for sure. That was really cool. I didn't realize that you guys threw that together so fast. But right away after I heard you, because the first time that I heard you guys perform, I definitely didn't know that, right? I ran into you inside of the...
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
So I was going to Ivy because there was going to be this little show there or whatever that I got invited to. And I ran into these two when we were getting in the elevator and introduced myself, not knowing that they were the ones opening and performing. And then 5 minutes later, I'm listening and I'm like, what in the world? Wow, these people are so much cooler than I am. This is rad.
Yeah, it was super cool because they told us that we needed 3 songs. So we were just like freaking out trying to pump out a bunch of different songs, and come to find out that we only needed 1 song, which was a great relief to us. But it was also really nice because now we had these extra songs. And what was cool about it was just this environment that we put ourselves in to actually create those songs, was something that we had never experienced before. And now finally having this music that we can go forward with was really awesome, and finally showed us that we could actually do something with this. And just the support and feedback that we got from that video was just so overwhelming. It was nothing we've ever experienced, and we're forever grateful for that.
So obviously both of you were already involved in music prior to that. You don't just like get the call and say, hey, I know you guys made a song or something, come and perform. Like, you must have been doing stuff. So how did the process go for creating music in the first place, and when did you kind of come to the decision then of like, hey, we should make this stuff together?
With my musical background with choirs, show choir and theater, I've always loved singing. It's always been a part of my life. And when Serge got the opportunity, I was like, I should go for it, because when am I going to get this chance again? And it's only been good from here.
Yeah, we had it was a bit of a conversation prior to October of 2018. I know I had just graduated high school. I was lucky enough to be a part of Irie Soul, which is a local Jamaican reggae group, and they took me on a performance. And in that, I had been in bands, but I was always the front man because I wanted to lead these bands, have this fantasy to be the front man or whatever. And I kind of came to this realization playing with Irie that I really enjoyed that side of being in bands, just being a part of the side, not having to lead it. So we kind of had this conversation prior, it would be cool to do something like that. Because I was in my band at the time called the Sauteurs, and we were trying to include Aliana because she has such an amazing voice. And that kind of, I feel like, in that collaboration and those conversations, from this idea to do something together kind of formed. And Aliana loves R&B, and I think her voice obviously fits it as well. From all that, it kind of came to this point where, we were so lucky to have the opportunity, because it kind of forced us to be it's time to put it together. I remember Kyle coming and was like, you guys want to do this? And we were had a day to be do we? And so, that decision was very quick, but I'm so glad we made that.
Yeah, I think one thing that right away, which I've told you guys a whole bunch of times, right, is confidence plays a huge thing when it comes to pretty much anything, but especially musicians and stuff, right? Because you have to be able to promote yourselves. And both of you are such soft-spoken people personally that I've been watching it and I'm like, you guys don't know how just amazing you are, and everyone needs to understand, how amazing you guys are. So how did it feel when in less than a year, all of a sudden you guys won? What'd you win with Volume 1?
Best new band?
Yeah, and then number
3
best overall band.
Best overall band.
So that was cool.
Yeah, how'd you hear about that? What was the whole thing? I know there was a whole big event that I didn't even go to because I wasn't there wasn't a best skateboard shop that wasn't a
You would have won it. You would have won. If there were other skateboard shops, you would have also still won.
Well, I appreciate it. So tell me about it. How did it feel to win an award so fast? Did that just make you feel okay, this is really worth my time? Tell me about that a little bit.
You want to speak on that?
Yeah, I was super surprised, honestly. We got the email, right? It was an email to be nominated for it. And I thought that was cool, and we were promoting it and everything. But I honestly didn't expect us to win, just because we haven't been in this for too long, and there were definitely other worthy people. So I was surprised. I was a little dumbfounded, but it was an amazing feeling for sure.
We certainly, I think we, the thing was, because awards are obviously nice to get, but it's not something we focus on or really hold ourselves to. And so, getting some sort of validation is always kind of nice to be oh, this is kind of another point we can check off that we've kind of made it to this point now, and it's something that we can see. And it was, it definitely, that email, I remember I had just gotten back from Vegas, and I was at Texas Roadhouse, and I was just hanging out because they were at capacity. I was just chilling on my phone, and then I just get the email, and they're Volume 1's congratulations, you made, and there was dot, dot, dot. I was no, what is it? And then number one best new band was incredible, and then third best overall band was, I think, even more like best new band is like cool because it's like oh, I don't know how many people were actually in that, but it was like that was super cool. But third best overall is just wild because there are so many amazing bands in this town, so we're just grateful to even be included in that conversation.
It's kind of crazy how talented like the scene really is in Eau Claire. It's been really cultivated by a lot of key people. I mean, especially when you look at what Benny Haas has done with Colin Ryan and everybody down at the Plus. Having venues like that and actually having consistent stuff scheduled to be able to bring people to light. Eau Claire has a pretty like intense scene. It's gotten really, really cool, really, really fast. I think people are doing super, super well with it.
Yeah, I think the cool thing, at least for me personally, that I see with Naalia is that like what Aliana can bring to this community is like an opportunity for other people to see that they can also make that type of music. 'Cause that's not R&B isn't relevant here really at all, and maybe something like hip hop, but like for artists to actually see like a powerful like female lead singing R&B and seeing that as an opportunity to create something here for themselves too.
Yeah, you guys are the only ones doing something even similar to that, in my opinion, that I've seen that's going on. I mean, there's obviously like a million genres and everything's a spectrum, right? It's not like something's specifically one thing or another, but you guys have a very unique sound, especially for like what Eau Claire is. So that being said, if you guys had to kind of describe and paint me a picture of like what is your sound for somebody to then like be interested and want to go listen, try to describe your music to me.
Ooh, I would say it's a bit of neo soul, like alternative R&B mixed with obviously our inspiration from 90s R&B. Because our mom, that's like all she listened to and all she played for us. So like Monica, Boyz II Men, TLC, 3LW. And then I listened to a lot. What really got me back into R&B was people like Jhené Aiko or her, Daniel Caesar, like that slow, more simple type of music. So yeah, it's a mixture of those two sounds.
In what ways has racial inequality been a challenge for you in your life so far? Do you see it changing right now? The reason I'm asking is because we are recording in the middle of June 2020, which is 2 weeks after the George Floyd murder, right? So the protests are going on strong. We just had a big one in Eau Claire, and obviously this is at the forefront of conversations for everybody. I'm just a random white dude in America, so my perspective is very different than what your perspective is. Can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, personally, for me, Aliana, obviously you're going to have a very different perspective, but I think for us, just as musicians alone, having the platform that we do and the opportunity to say things and have people listen, we take that responsibility very seriously. And we obviously are like very progressive and alone. We're both Mexican. Aliana's Black, and we've encountered our own racial issues within Eau Claire, within just Wisconsin, probably other places. But we feel as though we have a responsibility to say something, to constantly use our music as a platform to educate people, to make people aware. We just don't want it to, we always have a idea as to what it is we're trying to accomplish with everything that we do. And now more than ever, it's so important to make that very clear that that's people need to speak out, people need to be involved, people need to constantly be fighting, because it's been 2 weeks, and I'm really happy that the movement is still going really strong, but it is always a fear that it's going to falter and start to kind of dwindle. And
what sucks, right, is I experienced it from skateboarding, which is not even similar in any way, but when you're part of a smaller group, right, which in Eau Claire, we just don't really have a ton of diversity in Eau Claire. That's just the truth of the matter, right? So
yeah.
If I go to a show, how many groups are going to have a Mexican and Black person in the group singing and being at the forefront where you're headlining the show? Not many, right? And what sucks is it kind of puts it on your shoulders a little bit. Everyone's looking to you then, as far as what's appropriate, what should we be doing? Because white people were sitting here like, well, I don't know. Like, I haven't experienced any of this stuff. I haven't had a whole bunch of hate towards me. I haven't had any challenges. When I opened the shop, there were no questions about like, oh, cool, there's this young man opening a shop, but like race wasn't ever discussed.
Right.
Has it been difficult as far as like, I mean, even R&B, right? Like, has it been difficult trying to find a market and being able to get shows or like get support or anything? Or has it just been a little bit of a non-issue?
Actually, it's kind of not been an issue to get shows, but off of that, it feels like I'm the token black girl in a way.
Sure.
Every time I'm asked, and there's not really any genre that or any group that we fit in with in town, and so we kind of just have to do our own thing. But
Yeah, it's every show's kind of weird because we're like, unless it's our own show where we have control of like what we want the vibe to be, what we want it to look like. It's always like, if you just look at it on paper, we don't really fit into any of these shows that we play, and it's hard to find like a place here or like a situation where it's like that's like where where we belong. And there's and that's fine because Eau Claire is just not known for that yet, and I think that's like part of like what we're trying to do is make that more like bring more in and hopefully see more of that. But it's definitely got a ways to go. Eau Claire is very comfortable being where it's at, and that's an issue.
Sometimes it's hard to say yes to certain shows just because it's kind of terrible for me to say, but like I've just had a lot of terrible experiences from this town, and so it's like, well, should I really be giving anything back? But at the same time, it's like you have to be the bigger person, and there are certain steps that are tough that you have to take if you want changes to be made. But
Right.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, ultimately, whenever you're in a minority group, regardless of what it is, somebody has to step up. It just sucks when the group is such a small number of people in Eau Claire that it like kind of forces that upon you because there isn't anybody else to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just not that many other musicians of color in Eau Claire. There are a few, but there's not a lot. So like it kind of puts a lot of responsibility on you guys because you understand how much of an effect that you can have. But it sucks that it's put on you because it really shouldn't be. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, that's kind of the situation. But because you guys are such positive people making such positive music, I think it's going to be an inspiration for a lot of people, in this town because you're the only ones doing it. It makes it like shown that, hey, this definitely can be something in Eau Claire. You know what I mean? As things continue to progress. I mean, even diversity within Eau Claire, I think it's fairly obvious when you look around. I've lived here my whole life that it's not 100% white people anymore. Like people have been moving here consistently, and it's still a smaller population of different minorities, but the populations are growing and is becoming more and more acceptable. And as you see people like you out there doing your thing, killing it, it's only going to make more people want to come here. It's going to make people feel more comfortable. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man. I mean, we're not like any people, but I think like if anyone's listening and like wondering what they can do, as you were saying, I like that you touched on like it can probably to us sometimes feel like a somewhat of a burden, though it isn't. That like we feel like we have this responsibility. If people want to help, like one thing that for sure I know people of color, BIPOC people are all kind of getting very exhausted, like explaining the same thing over and over again. So it's very good if you want to help and you're like a white person not knowing what to do, like educating yourself, like doing things on your own, instead of reaching out to have someone explain it to you is already just one huge step that I know would help a ton of people. Like, and I get it because it's not in the forefront of like people's minds when they're not thinking about it. Like,
And it's easier just to ask someone who has firsthand experience.
Right. But yeah, that would help. I know a lot of people in this town who are BIPOC, which stands for Black Indigenous People of Color. That is one thing they're just getting. They're like they don't mind doing it obviously because it's for good, but it does get taxing on the mind.
One other thing that I would remind everybody always is in America, you vote with your dollar for literally everything. No excuses. That's how you vote for what it is that you want in America. If you want equality, donate money. It's great to attend a protest. That's awesome. Good for you. But your money will go a long way. So please, everybody that's like out there and committing a little bit of time, not that everybody has money, but put your money where your mouth is, man. There's a whole bunch of things, and by the time this episode comes out, this whole thing will be over. But like through my shop, me and the Eau Claire Justice League, we're doing like this little thing where it's like donating to them to help with the protests and whatever. We're doing like a little thing where it's like $10 donation and you're going to get these like keychains that we had made, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you put money where your mouth is towards any of these types of things, it will help those people directly. You don't have to spend a bunch of time looking things up or asking them or fully understanding. Put your money where your mouth is, man. Like, that will make a huge difference, absolutely.
For
so,
sure.
talking about money, unfortunately, here again. So, one more question that's, like, not totally great.
No, it's cool.
We're in the middle of the pandemic, right? Like, this thing sucked. 2020 was supposed to be everyone's year, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be my year, too, because the skate park that we've raised $85,000 for was supposed to be built this year, which is, I'm assuming, just not happening because it's not an essential thing. It'll happen next year because it was our money, but still.
You're right.
Skate park, which was supposed to help our scene, just didn't get built. The Olympics, this was the first year that skateboarding was going to be in it, which is mind-blowing that it hasn't been. But now that it is, if you look at how the snowboard industry was affected after the Olympics, it blew up, right? Skateboarding was going to have a huge amount of media attention. That, going along with a brand new skate park in town, was supposed to really boost everything I was doing. Not only that, but this is the first year of the show. I had all these cool interviews lined up where everyone was like, dude, quarantine, I'm not really comfortable doing this. I'm supposed to be doing live interviews on radio, but we shut the radio station down as far as like any in-person. Whole bunch of things that are affecting everyone. Not only that, but I'm finally open again, but and this is with like every small business, right? Products, somewhere along the line, some of your products are made overseas or in a state where there's like quarantine. I can't get merchandise. So for musicians, you guys just won, these awards. This was supposed to be a hot season, I imagine, for performances and stuff. How have you guys kind of like faced the challenges of what this whole pandemic has happened?
Well, I guess it kind of forced us to get back to basics, which is a good thing, really focus on our music. Because I know we really wanted to like expand, travel outside of Eau Claire, get our name out there, but just find where we want our sound to go and also keep us healthy as individuals, mind and body, and just trying to look at the positive side of what do I have control over right now? What can I fix for myself? And just go from there. But I don't know. I'm taking it step by step, I guess.
For sure. I mean, it's kind of funny how much we were talking about, because we were getting tons of shows, but in Eau Claire, like they're all in Eau Claire, and we wanted to, branch out and go to like, Madison or Milwaukee or Minneapolis or Chicago or something. And then now it's like trouble even getting a show in Eau Claire, which is like, I just think very funny. But it was like a good thing for us, I think, because we were getting so overwhelmed we were like very fortunate to get as many shows as we were getting for how little we have been on the scene, and just kind of evaluate ourselves. Take some mental health days to take a little step back from music and evaluate everything. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the really wise point there that you made is look at what are your controllables and what are your uncontrollables, right? That's something that almost everyone struggles with. It's something that I struggle with, where I'm frustrated why I'm not reaching certain goals. And I know there's reasons that, they're not excuses. There's legitimate reasons. But the big part then is to look at like, okay, well, what opportunities do I have? What is controllable for me?
Yeah.
What was controllable is all of a sudden we had a lot more free time where we had to be by ourselves or with our immediate family. Well, yeah, that's a good excuse to fix your mental health, like work on that a little bit or work on your music. You're not all of a sudden performing, you can work on new tracks or whatever, which bringing that point, right? You guys just had a new EP or something come out?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
right at the beginning of the quarantine.
Okay, can you talk to me about that a little bit?
Well, we've been performing those songs this whole year that we have been out, but we finally got it on all streaming platforms. It's finally out there, so you can listen to it on Spotify.
We took our sweet time with that one.
But it's 4 songs. It's Minor Harmonies, Brown Eyes, No One But You, and For Me.
Yeah, I mean, technically, if you want to look at a bonus track, there's our live performance of Minor Harmonies. That I felt like that was a nice way to kind of bring it around to like. You get the live performance that kind of started the whole thing.
But it's so nice to have it out now because there's like we can direct people to our music. We don't have to say, you have to wait till the next show.
I hope no one reads when our Volume 1 article came out, and it says, you can expect their EP mid-July, and then it's like you look on Spotify, released April 19th, 2020. And it's like what happened in all those months?
Dude, I'm telling you, like, obviously since the first day I met you, which is when all of a sudden I heard you guys play, and I was like, what in the world? Oh my God, this is incredible. I've contacted you guys for like everything.
Yeah,
all the
thank
time.
you.
I'm like, dude, if you guys are available, like I'm trying to have your name attached to anything that I'm doing.
We really appreciate it.
And well, dude, I appreciate it. You didn't make me pay you. That was awesome. But the crazy part was I was telling so many people, I'm like, you need to hear them. They're incredible. And yeah, I had like nothing to show.
Yeah,
I'm like, how do I introduce? I want to show you guys off. I'm glad that I'm finally in a like place where I can show you off with the show a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that was definitely a thing that we wanted to. I don't know what happened with us. It just kind of like, I think what we learned was that how much time actually goes into a product like an EP. Like for us, like
the steps you have to take with each song.
Yeah, and like we thought where we wanted it to be and where it was at, like just took way more time. And sometimes we just need to take time for ourselves where we had to step back a little bit and realize we were kind of just getting confused in the nuances of making it. And, we probably could have done it quicker, but I'm happy with the results where we're at now.
And now we know.
Now we know. It was all a learning experience. And we did it ourselves, which we're really proud of. I mixed all of it and we recorded all of it. And it's just nice to have something that you're like, this is ours. This is from us. It's not like some like studio produced thing. I mean, we did it at Sprinter, but like it's from us. Like we're not professionally trained or anything. So it's just cool to have it.
Well, I think a really big thing to remember right now is, especially because of the internet, everything is incredibly oversaturated, right? Which, for one, to other podcasters, I love you guys. You're awesome. But if you're not taking your show seriously, can you mellow out for a minute and try to take it seriously? Because you get lost, man. It's really hard to get your name out there because you get lost in the sea of a million people just doing their thing.
Yep.
It's so much better to just take your time and put out something that's the quality that you're comfortable with and let it shine. Because if you just add to the whole pool of applicants, right, and you're not like taking it seriously, might as well just not do it, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or just like send
absolutely.
it to your friends or something, but like don't put it out there as like a professional thing unless you're taking it seriously. It's just kind of wasting everyone's time.
Yeah.
Not to say like you shouldn't create for the sake of creating, but man, you know what I'm saying? Like there's people who are working really, really hard and they can't get it seen or heard because there's just a million things that are just thrown together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's better to just wait until you have a little bit more polished product that you're comfortable with and you like know what you're trying to accomplish with it. Yeah. It's way better to do that. People will wait for a good album. They don't want to listen to a bad album because then they won't listen to the next good one.
Right.
Just put out the good thing in the first place.
Absolutely, fully agree.
Okay, so we mentioned like inspiration before, and you're like, yeah, a bunch of 90s people, and you listed a whole bunch of them. Musically, if you had to pick like one or two for each of you, who have been some of your inspirations?
I got to go with Alicia Keys, big time,
Yeah.
and then Selena, of course.
Yeah, the first song I heard, I think, was that Alicia Keys cover that you did.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like, what? Because it's incredibly difficult to sing, I imagine, but like you performed it beautifully, for sure.
Not gonna lie, Vernon's been a huge inspiration to me. That was kind of where I got into music, was the Eau Claire Festival. I saw them live, Bon Iver live, and I had never seen a show to that degree, like of production. I'd only seen like small shows here. And I was really into indie music. So just seeing that like gave me this feeling. That kind of was what got me into music, wanting to recreate that feeling that I had seeing Bon Iver live. So I just kind of obsessed over his catalog, and from there got into Kanye West too. And him and Vernon together have been huge inspirations on just like production wise for me. Both like musically, how I want to play stuff, and Kanye's sampling is just, we've been kind of dabbling into some sampling recently, but yeah, those two, I'd say what West and Vernon have been really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Vernon, Bon Iver as a group in general, like how much they've affected Eau Claire in the last 5 years or however long it's been since they won that Grammy has been insane. Like Eau Claire is blown up as far as like a music scene. Not exclusively because of them, but they're a huge reason why. I mean, even the hotel next to me is partially owned by them.
Yeah.
I mean, like the whole downtown scene has like drastically changed.
Yeah. It was cool when like growing up, like being from here and seeing like, because I wasn't aware of him until like high school, that I was like, oh, there is someone from this town that can make it to that level. And now kind of thinking, I think in terms of us, what would be cool about succeeding in our area is just like having more kids of color like that can look up to people. I think would be really cool to be a part of that.
Well, that's where it comes from, right? Is those role models. When you
Yeah.
see somebody else do it, you know it's possible.
Yep.
Which is why it's cool when it's like, okay, you see someone from New York City versus Eau Claire, and you're like, oh, it's because there's connections out there or whatever. But when you see somebody from this zone all of a sudden make it, you're like, okay, then I can do it too. And that's exactly what is cool about you guys stepping up and making all this cool music, this R&B and stuff. It's like, okay, wait a second. It is possible to make this kind of music in Eau Claire. It is possible to be a minority and be able to come up and like still get voted to be the best new artist. Like it's really, really awesome to see that. So life in general, if you had to pick a role model, who's like a hero of yours? Just for the sake of not choosing favorites, say no family members. Okay, and I'll give you an example. So my hero all time is Andrew Reynolds. He's a pro skateboarder that he had a whole lot of like drug and alcohol problems, right? Which I've actually never even smoked weed, so that's not a problem for me. But in general, he had all these issues, right? And he came up and he was blown up. Well, he created his own brand. He went sober. He became a father, and he's somehow maintained extreme relevancy for the last like 20 plus years, like bringing in new kids to skateboarding and just like growing this really, really awesome thing. So when I look to him, I'm like, dude, that dude like did everything that he ever wanted. I want to be like that dude. So I've always looked up to him a lot.
Tyler, the Creator, for sure. He just like from like his Odd Future days and his original mixtapes and coming from Bastard and just being, I think just his progression in general, just being like unapologetically himself and saying things that were by far beyond offensive, and just like trying to be the most offensive and worst that he can be in his music because he just could, because that's what he wanted to do. I always thought that was just like inspiring that he succeeded to the level where he's at. Like if you listen to his albums, there's a clear progression in like character, and like now up to his like Igor, he is now like he's won a Grammy, which is what he's been always like something that he's looked up to as like a place that he wanted to be at. It was like among his contemporaries and like an award-winning like rapper doing what he's done. He's now got his like clothing label. He's got I think he sells bikes like and gives away bikes to like kids in need and stuff. And that dude is like on a whole nother level, just like doing amazing things. And the whole Odd Future gang in general, it's just like where they came from and where they're at separately. It's just, I think, really inspiring. And so for me, I'd probably say Tyler.
I love seeing the progression of it because like when that stuff popped off, I'm a little bit older than you guys, and when that stuff popped off, I was offended. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I listened to it and I was like, well, yeah, this sounds good, but like I'm not backing it. I'm not cool with it. I don't like people saying this type of stuff in music because I'm a firm believer of like when you're put in the spotlight, you're automatically a role model. I don't care how you feel about it. You are one. And if you're not leading by example for children, I'm not really down with it. It kind of bums me out. And then all of a sudden you like, I love Frank Ocean.
Yep.
That dude rules, right? But you watch it like as that stuff has grown, and they've understood that you don't have like at any point in time you can be yourself. That doesn't mean that is who you are forever, right? You can totally change everything as you feel and as you experience life, and it's been really cool to watch that because their character has changed. You know what I mean?
And the whole Odd Future gang is such a like representation of different races and different creeds, and a lot of them are LGBTQ, which you don't see that a lot in rap, in the rap community. And I just think they're really great. And Tyler's been where he's at now is just a place that I think a lot of people back then would never expect. Does that give you enough time?
Yeah. I'm definitely going back to Selena. Mostly a big part of why I look up to her is I love singing in Spanish. I just have a lot of fun. It's a beautiful language. It's the language of our people. But she was a Mexican American. She didn't know Spanish at the beginning of her life, which is very similar to mine. I just learned recently in high school from living with my grandparents. And the fact there's like a weird battle between people from Mexico and Mexicans who are born in America. We're not really looked at as true Mexicans sometimes, and that was a struggle for her, but she overcame it. She spoke weird Spanish, and I speak really weird Spanish, like I have a heavy accent, but people just didn't really care with her because she loved what she was doing. She had fun with it. She was a great person, and I think that just like proves to me, because what I want to do in the future is sing more in Spanish, and so it shouldn't matter that I am black. I'm from America. I'm gonna do what I want musically because it is my passion and I love it. And yeah, I don't know, I just look up to her. She had a good time and none of that mattered for her. So yeah.
That's the key, right? Is if you're not trying to offend or hurt anybody, and sometimes you're not trying to and you do, and then you educate yourself and whatever, like that can happen. But if generally you're trying to just do something that you really love because you're passionate about it, you care about it, and you're enjoying it, most people are going to be about it, man. People just like to watch other people have fun and try their best. So that's awesome. All right, so talking again about inspirations a little bit. I keep bringing it up, but dude, you guys are inspiring people. So
Thanks.
we talked about like Eau Claire scene being pretty incredible, really, for being like the town the size that we are.
Yep.
It is pretty incredible. Who are some of the people you've collaborated with so far? And then after that, who's somebody you haven't yet, but you're definitely trying to in the near future?
Well, so far, as far as actual tracks go, it's just been Miles with Scrappy and West Korea. But yeah, that was a good song. That was a fun song. I was able to do a bit more upbeat music with that one because you've heard our songs; they're kind of slow jams. So, but otherwise, we've just done shows with people like TYB, McCoy. Emily did a show with us also.
I think, that definitely, as far as it goes for people we've collaborated with in the past, it would be cool to collaborate with more people. It's just tough trying to find, like, obviously, as we were talking about, no one really does R&B, so it's hard to find someone, like, it's cool to, like, mix, like, genre fuse, but it's always, like, that's, like, a tough thing to figure out how to make it work. And, like, we want to, obviously, we take, like, time and care with everything, and right now especially is tough because COVID. But I don't know, is there anyone you've thought of that we haven't had this discussion yet.
Not that I'm not saying that you're like plugged, you have to with this person. I'm just saying, regardless of genre or anything, who's somebody in Eau Claire that you think is killing it right now, and it would be cool to find a way to work with them?
I would love to work with Naalia again. That would be cool. Do you have anybody?
I think it would be really cool to do like a singer-songwriter type song with McCoy, or Christina Swans isn't in Eau Claire really. She's based out of the cities, but I really like the tone of their voice. It's very warm, if that makes sense. And I feel like even though we have different genres, when they come together, something magical can be created. So yeah,
they're great songwriters.
I love listening to them. They're the type of people that you stare at and get lost in their music when they sing, especially live. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm currently working with McCoy to put out some of his music. So we can do it, Aliana. It can happen.
I think if you look at that song "Cabin" by TYB with Kate McGarvey,
oh, that's a fun song.
Yeah,
that's a great collaboration.
That one did really, really well, right?
Oh
and Kate sings slow. I think you could do something with TYB that would pop off, and he's killing it right now, dude. He's killing it. He's doing really, really awesome. I'm stoked to see how well he's been doing. Also, dude, Savannah. I don't know if you know her, Savannah Smith.
Yeah.
She's a pretty incredible singer herself, and she just moved back to Eau Claire. Her and Jonah opened up Seven Sons Vintage down on Barstow Street. I think both your voices would do really, really well on something together.
Yeah, I went to, she had a show back, I can't date it, but it was at the gallery. I think Kate McGarvey was opening for her. And that was, she does really great. She also was talking about how she took a really long time to make her album, and there was just a lot that went into it. And at the time I didn't know what she meant, but like now I get kind of an idea. And so I definitely I really liked her sound, and yeah, I guess that's I have her CD in my car. We can listen to it.
Let's do it.
You should. She's alumni with me. Me and her graduated high school together.
Oh, really?
And all
Wait,
these years later.
Which high school?
North High School, 2008.
Oh, for real? Nice. North High School, 2018.
Yeah, I'm a
10 years
little
later.
bit older. So on a grander scale, right? Again, you guys talked inspiration, but who's a current very famous musician that, like, clearly maybe you're not going to have a feature right this second, but if you could, who would be someone you would love to collaborate with?
Oh, Gary Clark Jr. I think he's amazing. I love that
he's great.
rock bluesy mixture he has going on because he has such a soulful voice, and the runs that he does are amazing. And then he just like shreds it on the guitar. I feel like I could have a lot of fun with that. Get out of my comfort zone a little bit.
For me, it would be probably more on the production side. Romil Hamnani is he's the producer for Brockhampton. I've just been on a Brockhampton binge, and like he is the amount of music that dude has made and produced, and like he's got some of the same inspirations as me. Like the music he makes, like the beats he makes, I think would be so cool to like with Naalia would be dope. Like it would be. It's kind of like this nice. He's Pakistani, so he gets like inspiration from Pakistani sounds as well as current hip hop and R&B as well. So I love that he tries to mix some of that stuff in. Like I've been trying to find a way to mix more like Mexican music into some stuff and trying to test those waters. But so far he's done it really successfully. And though Brockhampton's music isn't Pakistani, but the hip hop aspect of it, you find elements that you're like, that's like from him. I think is super dope. And yeah, personally, that would be a super cool collaboration.
A dude that I've been listening to, which I actually don't know anything about him personally, but I don't know if you're familiar with Matt Mason.
No.
Incredible dude. He's got a very, very good voice. Listen to the song Cringe. I'll throw that one out there. That's one of my favorite tracks, but I suggest you guys listen to it. You'd probably really like it. And I think like if somehow you could work with him, the two of you would make something pretty magical. So I think you learn a lot from challenges, right? So what's the biggest challenge you guys have faced so far musically since you started this thing, a year and a half ago? How did you guys overcome that challenge?
For me, I would say compromising during the songwriting process.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, well, I mean, I agree because we've definitely been there, and like a lot of it, like we both are very, we're kind of stubborn with each other.
I can be a diva.
I can also be a diva.
But yeah, I just I've learned that it's okay to let people or Serge help me out in writing lyrics or changing the melody a little bit, and so far it's come out great. I'll hate it in the moment or something, but then with the final product I'll love it, and then I love singing all of our songs. So that's probably been the biggest challenge, is just letting go of my pride a bit. And
yeah, for real, for me too. Like I think pride is definitely a big thing that can become an issue in the studio. Is you have this idea that you immediately like, and you're like, oh, this is it, like we should do this, and if the other person doesn't agree, like it's very tough to let go of that, or to kind of find a way where you're not immediately getting defensive about because it's like, I think we might think it's like an attack on our creativity, and like it's really not. Like one thing I think we're still learning is that we both have the same goal, is to make the best music we can make, and ultimately that's what we're trying to do. So we have to remember that this isn't because I don't like your ideas, or I don't like the way you work, or whatever.
So many fights.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've had plenty of fights, but ultimately, like, yeah, just kind of taking a step back and like being like, well, let's try this idea then, let's see if it works, let's not, usually it's just us, which we probably should stop doing to some degree, because I think we can get caught up in our own heads, but to like show other people the music and not just keep it for ourselves until we find a product we're happy with, because I think perspective is a really important thing in music.
I think it's a really important thing to remember too. Again, like, that's why you don't want to rush things.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
take the other person's opinions or their thoughts. You can record it and then never release it. That's fine. if you do that and you're like, ultimately when it's all said and done, you're not happy, okay, scrap the idea. Like, work on the next thing. Not everything's going to hit, right? You know, but the important part is being able to like take each person and their value and like understand, hopefully we can make this work. Believe that it's gonna work, and then like I said, just don't release if it doesn't work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
we used to have a song called "Ease Me." I mean, technically we still do. It's on a hard drive, but but I don't expect that one seeing the light of day because Aliana does not like it. I like it personally, the melody, but I can understand why she doesn't like it.
It's just a little too different from
Yeah.
the sound I'm going.
How many times did we perform that song? I think we only performed it once.
Yeah, I think so.
And then Aliana was like, "Nah, I'm over this." But it's cool. But yeah, it's definitely not for her. And sometimes, like, I know for me, I think we've actually had arguments about that song and how we should play it. I thought we should, but since then, I've come around to like understanding. Yeah, that's not her sound. Though I think the melody and like the drum beats are cool and whatnot. And I think some of the lyric writing, because I wrote some of the lyrics, was cool. Again, that was just my pride getting in the way of understanding that that's not her sound.
Yeah, and when you work as a team, right? Ultimately, like, the team has to like it.
Yep.
And again, like, no harm, no foul. You learn things, and if it didn't work, it didn't work. And just move on to the next thing.
Oh,
no
yeah.
big deal.
We're learning.
So I'm assuming that's what you're going to say, but let's try to pick something else if that was it. What's been the most useful lesson that you've learned so far since you started taking music a little more seriously that you think would be helpful to other people that are listening? Mine is going to be whatever project that you're trying to work on, right? Whether it's a business you're trying to start or like if you're trying to record an EP, like whatever it is, we've touched on it prior. Know what you want your outcome to be. If you don't have a very strong idea of what you want the outcome to be, it's not going to reach that space, right? You have to have a very clear goal. If you don't have that in mind yet, keep working on it, man. Like, don't put something out. Not just because of, like I said, like putting too many things into the pool, but like give yourself the time to really understand what is it that you're trying to accomplish. Because once you have a strong idea of what you're trying to accomplish, it's going to, whatever your project is, it's going to turn out so much better.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess kind of going off of that and what you said earlier about putting out your best work is making sure, because I'm big on mental health and taking a step back for yourself every so often if you need to, you know, taking a breather, because you're not going to put in your best work if you're not at your best. And so just making sure to take care of yourself. And then, I don't know, for me at least, everything falls into place once I'm in a good space.
For sure. I think for me, personally, one thing that I found useful trying to come to terms with is being okay with being uncomfortable. And like for me, though Aliana, we had R&B around us growing up because our mom was very much into R&B, and I think Aliana took from that way more than I did personally. I kind of grew up listening to like punk and rock and indie and whatnot. So now trying to make I wouldn't say I'm fit at all to make R&B music. Like I really don't. But so I'm like trying to learn more into that and listening more and learning from Aliana as well as to what makes R&B and like what are some things that and I'm very uncomfortable. Like I'm like I don't want to, you know, especially now there with some of the, you know, pressure it feels like we might have on us to like some expectation, I guess. It can be sometimes uncomfortable to dive deeper into that, you know? So yeah, I think being okay with being uncomfortable, because that means you're somewhere where you're usually not, and I think from there you pull things that otherwise you wouldn't, and it can either add to your life or it doesn't, and if that's the case, then just keep moving past it.
It's the only way for personal growth.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Even if you try something and you're like, this isn't for me. Now you know it's not for you, man. Now there's no question about that. It's all about personal growth. There's supposed to be a progression like we talked about, and that's going to be super important.
For sure.
So let's end the episode with a shout out to somebody that has helped you so far in your career and your life. Again, let's choose no family members just for the sake of not leaving one parent out or something like that. I'm gonna shout out one of the other guests on the show, which was Alexandra May. Me and her are friends. After she was on the show, she was in season 2. She's a boudoir photographer. I want to say she was season 2, episode 4. But I'd gone through kind of a mental health not crisis necessarily, but not my favorite time, in my life over the last, honestly, this whole time that I've been recording. Kind of been going through a lot of personal problems and stuff. And all of her business, everything that it entails, right, is about trying to build your own love for yourself. It's not about an ego, but it's about loving the person that you are. And that can be really difficult for people. And watching her do what she does, making people feel great. And I read a post today where she's like, look at yourself in the mirror and love who you are today. I hope everyone does that, or something along that lines. Every time I see stuff like that, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I am awesome, and my life is extremely valuable, and I'm so ready to accomplish more things. So I look up to her a lot. She's been awesome. So everyone go listen to her episode. What about you guys? Who do you want to shout out?
I'll do one quick one. Is my elementary school choir teacher, Mrs. Granzy Peril. She's kind of what got me into music, and that lady is dope. And yeah, she is dope. And unfortunately, I think she can no longer do the music program that we were a part of when we were there because of lack of funding, which is something I hope eventually we can kind of help with. If things go well for us, I would love to invest in having, because that is so important. That's where I personally started. I think Aliana can attest to that as well for herself. And yeah, so Ms. Granzy Peril, local choir teacher for Lakeshore Elementary School, she's amazing. But past that, I think I just got to shout out Kyle Culver, because Culver really gave me opportunities that I don't know. I think we would be here, but not quite where I'm at. And he's been just a great mentor to me. He brought me into Sprinter when I was fresh out of high school. I had really no production. I had nothing released. I had nothing really made. He's just seen me in some of my bands and some of the production that I was doing at Ivy when Ivy was just Ivy Recordings and maybe a couple desks. And I was it was me and 5 other people there. And he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And we've had many long conversations, and he's just he's continued to push me. And I don't think that I would be where I'm at without his help. So yeah, I gotta shout him out. If you're in Minneapolis, want to go get your recordings, Sprinter Studios, it's a cool place. That's where I started. So I used to look up to him when he was in the Millennium, and for me that was a rock band from this place. That's how I saw it. They were more of a pop group, or pop rock. But now to then be working with him was kind of this surreal thing for me. I was dude, I used to think you're something I could never reach, and now you're sitting here teaching me these things, and for him to take that time and see something in me was just I couldn't possibly pay him back for that.
Probably my friends. I have 3 friends, but they're awesome. Going way back to our first performance and the release of our song, the YouTube one with Converge, they both memorized the songs right away, every single word, and we're singing it at the next of our shows, and just pumping the music out to everyone they know. And I don't know, it was pretty amazing to see that. Friends for a long time, and so yeah, I'd gotta say my friends there, they've really helped with the support and everything. I got ready at Peyton's house for my first show. We were just in the bathroom doing our makeup and everything, and it was just, I don't know, it really showed me how great they are.
I think it's really important to remember that it's way harder to do things by yourself. And not only that, but the people that you connect with, they're not stealing any shine from you. People who have that mentality of well, no, I can't shout this person out, or I can't help this person out unless they help me. No, man. Things go what you put out there, things come back around to you. Mm-hmm. And once you're in a position where you can kind of help bring some shine to somebody else, it doesn't take it away from you. It just builds the people around you anyways, right? That's honestly from a business mind, that's just good networking. You want your friends to do better, because that later on maybe they throw some shine back on you. Who knows? But in general, it doesn't hurt you to help other people. So if everybody just helps those that they're capable of helping, there's going to be a lot of really cool, stories that people look back on where all of a sudden they're oh man, Serge really helped me out on this one. And I would have I'll never be able to pay him back, you know? Like, you may end up having that effect on a whole lot of people.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.